My name's Sharon Prue. I've been at Hope Village for 25 years, but I've been the executive director 9. So I kind of started, I've worked probably every position here and every shift there is. So I have kind of a unique perspective for my staff, and of course knowing the villagers, because we have a low turnover, of residents, and so many of them I've known many, many years. We're a private nonprofit facility. We take care of children and adults, primarily adults, with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have a residential program. We have 60 residents that live with us. We have a very low turnover of residents, like I said before. So typically we have many that have lived here, 30, 20 years, 25 years, and things like that. So which is great for our program. You can really track, because typically our villagers, may take a very long time to learn a skill or to acquire a new skill. And so that part of it's rewarding, because you get to actually, you think, oh, I remember 5 years ago when, Susie wouldn't do this or whatever. So we also have our day program, which is an important part of what we do. They go there Monday through Friday. And then we have about 40 or so that live in the community that come to our day program. So they might live at home or they live at small group homes in the area. And over there, we have a wide variety of vocational opportunities. Once someone comes in, we kind of try them on everything. And then some people only like to, do one thing. You understand that, I'm sure. And so they want to do that one thing, paint, let's just say, and that's fine. So then, but we'll still have them rotate out the schedule, because we have pull-out groups and classes throughout the day where they're also working on too.
So the day program is primarily to learn like vocational skills or life skills?
Both. Vocational for sure, but then we have many that do pre-vocational things, because maybe they're not at, that level where they can do some of the contract work or work in the cafe, that's a big one. So we have the cafe there. We have the arts program where they all do arts every day. So they go over to a classroom and do that. We do parties and activities. We have groups that'll come and entertain them and have, shows and things like that. So that kind of goes on too. So it's not strictly vocational. It's kind of a day hab where we're doing a bunch of things, but we like to focus on vocational skills there. So it's, you have to be on time. And there's a certain, I'm sure you can imagine there's a very regimented schedule that goes on over there. Everything's done exactly on clockwork, and they expect that. And so the routine helps to keep, everybody smooth and have a large population of people with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, certainly. We have some traumatic brain injury, not many, but, we have a few. Those are for the most part, what we see. Some of them, they don't know, especially some of our older ones when there weren't all these things in place, and there weren't resources in place in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And so you don't really know, what their diagnosis would be. But certainly we've seen, and we have many, with autism or some layer in there, and I know that's all changed, so I'm trying to get used to all used to all this, because before a lot of the doctors would diagnose Laura as PDD-NOS, because they didn't. That's kind of like, I don't know, kind of deal, and so we have a lot of that, but now of course that's all changed into DSM. So I don't. We're just going with what it is.
Right. What kind of life skills are they working
on? It's typically going to be things like hygiene, depending, like I said, what level that they're on. And so, but we're always working on grooming skills, hygiene skills, money skills, counting, sorting, because a lot of the contract work we get for companies is typically, it's all piece rate, and we have a special certificate with Department of Labor, so they all get paid for everything they do, but they get paid by a piece rate, so how many they complete. So knowing how to match, you'd be surprised. Some of those skills are very, very important for their adult life.
Excuse me.
Yeah, because most of those things will take some type of matching or sorting, or, like we do the League City Chambers newcomer guide. So they're the ones that stuff all the we do a lot of assembly line items. So, and counting.
And how do you think that affects them when they learn these types of skills? What kind of aspects of their lives does it change?
Oh, I think it opens, especially, and sometimes our villagers have a difficulty transferring the skill. So they might learn the skill in one setting, and then now we have to take it, to be able to also use that at home in other ways. So to try to generalize it. So we work a lot on that once they get the skill there. But here that have varying degrees of depression at times, and so. But it typically, that's not going to be it can't be their primary. It can't be their primary for us. And so because we don't have, all this, I mean, we have to be sure that we can meet everyone's needs that's here. And so that's what we tell families and people. I said, well, I believe you can't be a program to everybody. You can't deliver service to everyone. You need to find like your niche of people,
right.
Your group.
Absolutely.
And then you got to focus and do the best job you can there. So that's what we have had some with more severe emotional disturbance before, and it doesn't always work,
right.
It really doesn't work out for very long. Like schizophrenia, we've definitely had several schizophrenia, and we have a few right now, but if it's manageable, then we can work with it. Of course, when Hope Village was first started, in the 60s, there weren't any resources really, except for a hospital or so, state hospital, and so families were placing their children younger because there weren't the services and didn't have special ed schools. We didn't have all, what they have today. And so that's why a lot of them came young. And then we see that trend, moving as more services are available in the community and at schools and things of that nature, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now we typically see it, it's funny, we see it at two different times, and they're very different times. And one's great and one's not so great. I can tell you personally. Right out of high school, we see a lot. That's probably the surge of our biggest population, at least like 2 or 3 years out, because their parents are like, oh, what, they can't sit at home all day. What are we going to do? So we got to do something. And then the other end of the spectrum that we'll see, which is unfortunate, that I wish parents could be, I don't know if it's a lack of education, I'm not really sure why, but it'll be very late in life. And when a parent's 70, and they're like, oh my, who's going to take care of my kid? And then somebody may not have an open, because we work off a waiting list, or it may be so difficult for that adult to transition from that small home, to this large community life. It makes it real difficult on the villager, especially if the family really waits till mom or dad passes away, and we try to encourage our families, don't leave your plans for that time, because now they're already, now I have to deal with the death, and I have to leave this home I've known all my life, and I have to go live with a bunch of strangers, even for you and me, it'd be overwhelming. So that's the unfortunate one, but we do get quite a bit of that.
What would you say to families who have a young child with cognitive disabilities when they should start looking into what they're going to do?
Wow, I would definitely intermediate school, if not early years of high school, because a lot of places have long waiting lists. And I think that's where parents get surprised, and they'll call and say, oh, my son just graduated, well, we have a 3-year waiting list, or something like that. So I think they need to start looking at it and at least get on the list. I tell every parent I know that's, I said, get on every list, because you don't have to accept it, but you don't know when you might or might not. So, and then if you want state funding, like the Medicaid waiver programs, I think the list is at 12 years now. It's either 10 or 12 years.
Before you can even actually get
access
services.
Anything.
Wow.
For an adult. So, you really need to, they need to start early. And I understand that, I'm sure that's a difficult realization to come to and when they're very young, but it's good to, and I tell them to look everywhere. They say, oh, I just want to come to Hope Village, or I just want to do this. I say, no, visit everywhere there is, everything there is offered, because you just never know, what's out there.